Hey everyone, here I am in Michigan. It's interesting to be doing a post from here. I mean, I know I've done a couple months ago, but this is my grandmother's piano. I don't even know what year. I think it was built in the 40s. But when I come up here, there's always a intense feeling of family and lineage, and both the kind of connection to all these various branches of my family, which oddly, this part of the country, a lot of us have maintained a presence up here, coming up for vacations and whatnot. So it means that I'm in touch with far more of my family up here than I am anywhere else in the world. And also, this is where I see my own family the most, my own parents, my own siblings. And what's been coming through as we traveled here yesterday. I was on the plane with Annalise, and we got delayed at O'Hare Airport, and we had 4 hours, and we ended up leaving at 11:30 and landing at 1:45 a.m. And all that time, we just, I got to the airport and I saw the delay, and my first impulse was, oh, shit. But then within about 5 minutes, I was like, wait a minute. What if this is a gift? What if I'm in this airport? This is my childhood airport. I've lived in Chicago for so long. And so within a few minutes, I was like, well, okay, so we're over here in the American terminal, Terminal 3. But I remember there used to be this crazy neon tunnel. It was a moving walkway that had neon lights going over it in the United Terminal. And Annalise, having on the last couple of trips through airports, absolutely fallen in love with moving walkways. She's 3, so it's that age of that's the coolest thing in the world. The walkway moves. I thought, okay, well, if I've got 4 hours at O'Hare Airport, might as well not spend it sitting at the gate trying to keep a toddler busy. Let's just go for a walk. So we walked to the other end of the airport. Probably, I don't know, it was probably 2 miles. It felt like forever. We got to the other end, and there's this giant dinosaur, like a giant brontosaurus or something over in that part. So we saw the dinosaur, and then we turned left and we went down the longest escalator in the world. We got down, and we were just looking at this huge long walkway with the lights going over the top of it. I think they built it in the early 90s or the late 80s or something. So it's this crazy childhood memory for me. I remember when the tunnel used to be black. I'm sure they decided at some point that was a safety hazard and they had to turn the lights on. But I had this very cool moment of being able to introduce my child to this kind of weird art installation in an airport, and at the same time she was just overjoyed because it's the moving walkway, and all we're doing is riding the moving walkway back and forth and up and down the escalators. And I just thought, the more that I can remain present and remember that my experience colors her experience. My experience almost determines, it's strong to say that, but what I, as the parent, how I interpret the event is how she learns to interpret events. So if my interpretation of a flight delay is that now life sucks for the next 4 hours, then that's what her interpretation is going to be. I'm doing a video post. Want to be part of it?
Right now?
Right there. This is my sister-in-law, Julia. I was just telling them how we navigated O'Hare yesterday. Don't you find that? Do you find this to be true, Julia? I was just thinking, yesterday when I was at the airport and we had I walk off the plane, 2.5 hour delay. I'm like, fuck. And I'm like, so now it's going to be like 2 in the morning when we land in Traverse City. But then my next thought was, but what if, because I had even thought, I don't have time. I knew I wasn't going to have time to go to the United Terminal and go to this moving walkway, right? The one that you guys walked through. I knew I wouldn't have time to do that because it was like a 45-minute connection. But all of a sudden I have 4 hours. And I was like, well, what if that's what we're supposed to do? Like, what if that's the gift of this?
I think when you can turn something into an adventure and a gift and a possibility, that's sort of the key.
Right. I mean, my thing was like, if I interpret this event as being shit, now life sucks for the next 4 hours, then that's exactly how Annalise is going to treat it. That's how she's going to feel.
And how you're going to feel.
And how I'm, not to mention how I'm going to feel. But this is kind of like, I was thinking more about like, well, whatever I have, whatever happens for me is what's going to happen for her. So what do I want to have happen for her? Do I want it to be, this is really shitty that we have to be in O'Hare now for 4 hours? Or is it like, are we just going to have an adventure and play around for 4 hours? You know what I mean?
Yes. And I will say, as a person who tries to believe that the destination is not the goal,
right?
But the living into things is what makes life. Like life is really just about like whatever the hell you're doing with your time.
I love that.
And for those of you watching, and also for Robin and me and myself to validate, being a parent is also, you're in this constant battle with readjusting everything. That is, that for me is the hardest part of parenting. What it feels like to be, your kids are growing so rapidly and changing so quickly at a clip that like you haven't been used to for a really long time and certainly weren't conscious of. So the constant re-navigating and adapting to things that are changing really fast is just like maddening sometimes. So though that's the goal, and when you can get there, that's the best.
What's the goal?
The goal is to just be able to like be in the present and enjoy what's happening.
Totally.
But like, oh my God, that does not happen much of the time. And sometimes even like I even know, I think deep down I do think too that it's important for my kids to see like when I get frustrated, then how I deal with that. Even like things that they do that I really don't like getting mad is sort of important for them to see, because you can be that. A feeling isn't everything. It changes, it's just information. Totally. So then they see that still I still am there for them. I still love them. I will work through this. I'm not going to be like this forever.
That to me is like, I love that lesson, because it's almost like then you as the parent, you can make mistakes without feeling so like, I've ruined it now, because you realize that like even on some level, even your own mistakes are serving them, and of course you're gonna try not to like be present or to like be all caught up in your ego or some like
thing that went wrong.
Yeah, you're not gonna try and get hung up on that, but at the same time, like them watching you wrestle with that and be transparent to that is them learning that experience. Like they're building from what you're doing, whether you get it right or wrong. I think that's so important, because then it's like, of course you still want to have, like, okay, I want to be more present rather than less. I want to be more aware rather than less. But when it feels like you're not, you also know that that's not necessarily a problem. Like, you know that the journey is the whole thing for them too.
Right. And that we have shifts and weather that happens in us.
That's so great.
I think there's a big piece for me about like really honoring your own life, with your children, that they see that you're important, as important as they are. Like, my need to live my life.
So that they don't learn that they're supposed to make themselves all about someone else, which is what they would otherwise learn, right?
That's a good point.
Otherwise they would learn that, like, especially about parenting. Like, they would learn, being a parent means totally
giving up
everything you need for your child. I don't want to be a parent. I've seen that happen to a lot of people.
Well, or that even if they do want that, I think for a lot of people, like, living in their own life is also so difficult that they think parenting, then they can put everything into
that. Give them the next, yeah. Totally. That's awesome.
I had this, should we keep chatting?
Yeah. I feel like we should just do a podcast series now.
I went to, speaking of being in the moment, I went to a wedding years ago in Michigan, actually, where we are. And they had this tent set up outside my friend's house on a lake. It was so beautiful. And then the sky opened up and it poured, and wind, so much so that the entire tent fell over. Everyone in the wedding got soaked. And this was actually before the bride came out to walk down the aisle. So everybody was waiting for her.
So she walked into the apocalypse.
The tables all got trashed. I mean, everything got blown over. People were diving to get to some cover, and got covered in mud, and Katie, the bride, just came out. It was supposed to be outside. Everybody just gathered under the tent after they finally put it together, created a walkway for her, all just soaking wet like dogs. And she walked down this aisle of her friends and family, this short, in this little tent. And I don't think there was one moment I watched Katie feel like her day was ruined.
Something was wrong, yeah.
And then it was just the best party. And of course the sky cleared up, and we were all soaked and drying off, and people's makeup was trickling down their face, and someone had to set up their iPod because the music got messed up. And I mean, I feel like it was one of the best parties I'd ever been to. And Katie and her husband were so happy, and they're kind of punk rock, so it just felt fitting.
That's basically that thing of if you can embrace what's happening. And it's this thing of when we talk about being in the moment is a huge challenge. Because it literally means because even in the moment we're going to develop expectations, or we're going to develop attachment, or we're going to develop whatever, and that's fine. It's not even if that were a problem, then this whole conversation would be moot, because it'd be well, that's just the way it works and you can't change. But the fact is, even though we still develop attachment, continually reevaluating. Obviously you don't think your wedding is going to turn into a hurricane, that you don't plan that. But when it does, if you can embrace that, it's what can't you, that bodes pretty well for that relationship. Don't tell me if they've broken up.
They have not.
Okay, good.
And I don't think they ever will.
But that's amazing, right? That's such a great metaphor to launch your relationship with, right? Totally. It's amazing.
They say, there's always that saying rain on your wedding day is good luck. And I've always been that's just to make people feel better. When they say if a bird poops on your head, it's good luck. And I'm
right.
That's just to
make you feel better when it happens.
But if you're just going with it.
Totally.
It's pretty good. Even my walking in here and putting my big butt right in front of the camera.
And just randomly showing up and sitting down. I love it.
I know.
Well, I do this every day, as you know. So this is Julia, everyone. Love you all. Maybe we'll do some more parenting podcasts / music in the next days while we're here. Who knows? We'll see. Take care, folks. See you tomorrow.